Hello, my little creatures of the night. It's me, Chris, also known as the Retro Gaming Nerd, and welcome to Nostalgia Goggles of Horror. Today we're going to be talking about a somewhat unfortunate situation alongside the title, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Now, if that happens to you, and you have neighbors that are eaten by zombies, it's most unfortunate, but it also is the name of a Super Nintendo game, and also Sega Genesis. So we're about to see if Zombies Ate My Neighbors is worth it. Debatably, it depends on how good your neighbors are. So an evil doctor named Dr. Tongue, bear with me, that's his name, unleashes monsters along the neighborhood, and it is your job to stop the zombies, monsters, and everything else in between that is coming to attack your neighborhood. Now, the thing about this story is that it's a very simple story, and also it sounds oddly enough like a thing that, it sounds like an evil chemist version of Dr. Doofenshmirtz, to be honest. Because, I don't know, it just sounds like something, because he's trying to take over the neighborhood. What's the difference between that and taking over the tri-state area, right? The same difference. I don't know, I'm in a weird, Phineas and Ferb mood. Anyways, I feel like the story is perfectly fine, and also it works well enough by giving us an antagonist with a name, but also just not being like zombies, all these stuff are just here, right? Because, when I first thought of this story, I thought it was, oh yeah, zombie, because its name is Zombies Ate My Neighbors, so I thought zombies were, gonna be it, but this game has more than that, which we'll talk about in gameplay and presentation, but I think that it's really cool that we actually have an antagonist behind it. With that being said, there's not really much more to say. The story, I think, works out very well for what this game is. With that being said, let's move on to gameplay. So Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a run-and-gun top-down shooter game, and it takes a lot of inspiration from arcades. Now, I'm taking this from the documentary that is on the remastered version on modern consoles, but that is the best way to describe it, is that it takes the best parts of arcade games, and that's what it seems like they wanted to do, and this feels great. This feels like it would have been a game in an arcade, but I think it being in the home feels way better than even an arcade would, because it allows that being able to play it at any time, anywhere kind of setting where arcade games don't 100% have that. Yes, it's really cool to have arcade games in the home, I will always love Pac-Man, but there's always games like Streets of Rage and this are games that are great because they understand the home setting. The fun thing about this game being a run-and-gun top-down game is also that there are many weapons within this game, and all of them feel really fun and really nice, but some of them feel odd, but at least you have the choice, right? I think that that's what's great, is that the variety of weapons are fun, they're usable, and I like that the fact of sometimes they actually have purposes, like for instance, in certain levels, certain characters turn into certain things. I don't want to spoil it, play the game, but if you have a certain utensil, it actually works more effectively, and actually that's just how some weapons work. There's a weed whacker that, surprise surprise, works on mutant weeds, and I think that the thought process that they put behind that is really great and really just awesome. They could have just been every weapon does the same thing, just one slightly more powerful. Heck, even the rockets allow you in certain levels to break through walls and stuff like that. Now, the game doesn't penalize you, but you don't get points for always doing that. Another thing that's interesting is also the enemies in this game. I feel like the reason why I'm bringing them up here is because they all have to be handled somewhat differently. There's not really as many, bosses as you would think there would be in this game. There's more of, I think, argumentatively more of boss levels, more than there are bosses. There are bosses, there's the big baby and, I guess the chainsaw guys count. Here's the problem. I normally have a rule where I have to beat a video game to talk about it on this show, but Zombies Ate My Neighbors is one of those games that I feel like I probably could beat, but if I took the time to do it, I would take it. It'd be forever. And that's not a bad thing. It's just Zombies Ate My Neighbors has a whole bunch of levels to it, and all of them feel really nice, really fun, and it feels amazing to play with two people, which this game has that capability. But like I brought up Streets of Rage, you could also play this game on your own because that's how good it is. It doesn't take into the being overly hard aspect of what arcade games was. Yes, this game is difficult, but it's not impossibly difficult. I feel like everything is about equally leveled to a degree. Yes, there are some levels that are just kind of bullshit, but they're kind of fun bullshit, it's always fun to learn from the past levels. And last but not least, the thing that I almost forgot to talk about is the main point of this game is collecting and saving your neighbors. I almost completely missed that. The neighbors are also interesting and kind of fun to look at because they all have different designs. They recycle neighbors, mind you, but you have like military men, teachers, cheerleaders, a guy that's in the pool constantly, and a girl that's on a trampoline. I'm bringing these up because I feel like they actually have somewhat kind of gameplay ideals to them. When I was first playing this game, one of the ones I always like to save last is the trampoline person or the pool person, because they're always guaranteed to be there, right? Because they're not easy for monsters to get a hold of. I believe they can be. I don't know. I haven't had an experience with them being gotten, but since they're in such particular places, there's a little bit of a strategy for certain victims, as they call it. So all in all, I think that the gameplay is super solid, and I feel like if you're somebody that's looking for a game to play with couch co-op, I think that this is the game to do it with. It feels so fun, it feels so great. One of the problems I will say though is the fact, since this is an older game, that if you get separated too far, or you can get stuck, and that really sucks because that'll destroy your lives. But I feel like that's just a syndrome of it being an older game. All in all, this game is solid. With that being said, let's move on to the presentation. Zombies Ate My Neighbors is an absolute love letter to horror movies in general, because it has almost everything that horror movies have, such as blobs, giant people. I'm not gonna say giant babies. I know that that's probably a horror movie, or at least a horror movie parody, but still, it has that. It has your zombies, obviously. It has your mummies. It has everything that a horror, even aliens. Later levels have aliens. Like that right there is, hell, even evil castles. That right there is what makes this game great, is that it is a beautiful love letter to horror movies, but not only that, it's also a beautiful love letter to arcade games. One of the things that's interesting that my partner brought up is that with the two main characters, their guns are colored like arcade guns would be like games like Time Crisis or House of the Dead. I mean, I say this, but like at the time that's what they were. Now guns look completely different in the arcades. Arcades are completely different now, but I think that that's also nice. All in all, this game's presentation is absolutely solid, because the music is also absolutely solid too. This is a solid game altogether. I know I say solid a lot in my videos, but it is, and I feel like you will definitely appreciate this if you like horror movies, but I also think you'll just appreciate it in general. It's a really great game, and it looks phenomenal, sounds phenomenal, and it's just all in all phenomenal. With that being said, none of that matters if you can't get your hands on it, so let's talk about accessibility. So Zombies Ate My Neighbors came out for two different consoles back in the 90s, which were the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. The Super Nintendo game will set you back about $26 to $24, which is a really good price, and the Sega Genesis version will set you about $30 to $40. Now, this game also had a limited run release, which also means that now you can play this game digitally, but the physical release also will not set you back too much money, either being about the same price as the Super Nintendo game and the Sega Genesis game. So I feel like, in all truth, you should definitely probably go for the modern re-release. The only problem I have with the modern re-release, which will be talked about in the goods and the bads, is that, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, I've tried, and I guess it makes sense. I don't know, I gotta get into the logistics. It won't matter. But one of the things that you cannot do in this game, and this is kind of why I'm bringing up maybe that you might want the Super Nintendo version or the Sega Genesis version, is that there is a Day of the Tentacle level that is missing. The Day of the Tentacle is a video game also made by LucasArts, and it's a point and click game, but it doesn't really matter. It's just, I feel like when it comes to talking about these kind of things, to take out content is something that would be talked about, accessibility, if I'm aware of it. To a degree, I might be opening a can of worms that I don't want to open, but I do want to bring it up here, that this is a level that is missing, and I don't know why. But if you're looking for that level, and I doubt it, I don't know where you're standing, but if you're somebody that's older like me that likes Zombies Ate My Neighbors and you want all that comes with it, this seems to be missing, and I don't know why. There might be some legal reasons, but I don't know. The new one was released by Disney, and I believe Disney owns LucasArts, so like my hands are up in the air. I don't know. There might be some difference, but I'm rambling. With that being said, let's move on to the goods and the bads. This is a game that I feel like me and my partner absolutely love playing together, and I feel like we don't have enough time to do it. Why'd I bring that up? Because it's one of those games that is a classic game that is still fun to play today. I absolutely love almost everything about this game, and I think that it's, once again, still a really fun game to play. It's really nice to have a game like this around the holiday season of Halloween, because sometimes you just don't want to be dedicated to zombies or vampires or one specific set of genre, and this game gives you that. And I just think the game is altogether solid. It looks very well done. I love the sprite art within this game. Another thing that's interesting that I like about this game is that it has a password system that kind of works like all old games do. I think old games need to get more credit for the password system nowadays, because that allows you to skip around in levels or allows you to just jump right back into where you were. The passwords aren't given out as commonly, like you have to make it to a certain point in this game, but it's still nice to have it, especially since nowadays you can just look up passwords and be like, hey, look, here's where it is. And another cool thing about the passwords in this one is that old ones work. So like, let's say that you're somebody like me or older that has played the game, wrote down a password in a notebook, and you still have that notebook, because some people do, you can use it. You can pick up from where you started when you were younger and continue the game from that point, I believe. I haven't tried. I haven't cross-played this game. I feel like I should have, but, you know. I think another thing that's really great about this game, and it's something that I need to give more credit to, is I absolutely love that we have more accessibility with these older games. This is what I feel like we need more of, especially nowadays when video games are not being preserved. It's really cool to have this one be re-released. And this is one that I think we'll talk more about this in the goods and the bads, but I feel like I think it's really cool to have it being released again, because it could have just been lost to the wayside. With that being said, not everything about this game is perfect, and I feel like there's surface level things that are kinda and stuff that is out of the game's control, but I still feel like it should be talked about. With that being said, let's move on to the bads. So I brought up that this game being accessible is one of the good things about this game, outside of it being solid. And I think that, yes, I'm very happy that this game is way more accessible. With that being said, I'm not happy with the way that it is accessible. Disney has been doing this thing lately of where they've been re-releasing their old games, and then either with like Aladdin, they've been releasing, and they fixed this, mind you, so I'm kind of bitching in the whatever zone, but Disney's been releasing these and kind of not 100% letting everything be in their content. For instance, when they released Aladdin and Lion King back in the day, they only released Aladdin for the Genesis and then gave some like hands-in-the-air reason for not letting Capcom's version be a thing. Now it's available, you're able to play both, but I think that kind of sucks. And with that being said, why does it affect this? Because in this one you are missing like Day of the Tentacle, and also with the NSO existing, I think that it would have just been better for it to be there, but I feel like it's a money-grabbing kind of thing of why it's not, because Disney does own LucasArts. And I think that kind of sucks. I think it would have been better if it was on NSO, because really they don't add anything 100% new to this game. I don't believe there's online play, so there's no real reason to not have it on NSO. And I think that kind of sucks. It's also connected to Ghoul Patrol, but that's, I guess that's a bonus if you... Another bad thing about this game is, and it's not even bad, this is more of a difficulty talk, so it's a warning more than it is, oh, it's bad, and I probably should have started here, is this game is a little bit difficult. I feel like it's fair to say that I've been playing it for so long that I don't find it as difficult, especially when you're playing with a friend, but I can see where this game is a little bit tough. It's once you get used to it, though, it kind of evens itself out, but I do think that the difficulty is definitely there. With that being said, I've said my piece. Let's move on to the final thoughts. So is Zombies Ate My Neighbors worth playing today? Absolutely. It's one of those kind of games that understands the arcade stylings of a video game without having to be that toughness and difficulty. Now, there is definitely difficulty in this game. There's a point where it just gets super hard, but this game is just amazing, and I absolutely love it, and it's timeless. You should still play it. It also gives great Halloween-y vibes, and also it kind of just embodies the idea of the super colorful kind of 90s-ish, so it does a great job. I think all in all, at the end of the day, yes, Zombies Ate My Neighbors is worth it. And if zombies did eat your neighbors, you should probably, call the police. Depends on what kind of zombie situation we're in. If it's a post-apocalyptic one, you're kind of screwed anyways. With that being said, I'll see you next time on Nostalgia Goggles of Horror, where I talk about Ghoul Patrol, the successor, or sequel, to Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.